Now, what if I told you that one of the world's most wanted mafia members wasn't caught by the intelligence agency, but was actually caught by Google Street View? Yeah, a single blurry picture seen on Google Street View ended this man's 20 years of escape. Giacchino Gamino wasn't just a small-time crook, he was a feared boss of La Stida, a Sicilian mafia group. In 1989, Gamino and his brother Angelo both fled to Spain, but soon they were tracked down. The younger Gamino was caught in Barcelona and sentenced to life in prison. The brothers were locked up together in Rome until 2002, when a movie was being filmed inside the prison and some chaos happened, during which Gamino escaped, disguised among extras and visitors. Just like that, he vanished and stayed a ghost for the next 20 years. Gamino was on Italy's list of most dangerous wanted fugitives, and anti-mafia police recently began a fresh search for Gamino sometime in 2017. From the start, they knew he was likely in Spain due to his past ties to the country being so well known. Believing he lived there, they started a search for him under an assumed name in the area, and after some internet searches, it finally led them to a Google Street View image where two men could be seen talking to each other outside a grocery store. It was a pretty normal view, nothing too suspicious. To make it harder, the faces were also blurred. According to Google's policy, the cops thought the man looked like Gamino, although the pictures they had were decades old. After studying the grocery store, which was since closed, they found a phone number on the side, which they Googled. The phone number led them to a restaurant in the same area. The restaurant was a 3-minute walk away from the grocery store seen in the Google Street View. The restaurant was named La Cocina de Manu, which means Manu's kitchen. Now, here you can see the similarity between the grocery store and the restaurant. It uses the same phone number, same location, and similar names as the grocery store was named Manu's Garden. From here, it gets interesting. There was this one ad regarding this restaurant, along with 6 plates and 3 desserts of Sicilian cuisine, which ties back Gamino to his roots. If you notice, there's also this hand sign holding a fork and spoon with spaghetti. That's exactly a copy of The Godfather's logo, the most famous mafia movie of all time. Nonetheless, it was those small hints that the investigators needed to dig deeper. And on dining websites, the officers came across a photo of the restaurant's chef standing proudly in front of his wood-burning pizza oven. The officers compared this picture to a mugshot of Gamino they took decades ago. Gamino had a scar on his left chin, and in the picture, you can see the chef's left side is towards the camera. And after matching the scar, the officers contacted Spain's national police, and that is when Gamino's luck ran out. Gamino was finally arrested in Spain on December 17, 2021. When police surrounded him, he was stunned. "How did you find me? I haven't even called my family for 10 years. He repeatedly asked the officers, as Gamino never in his dreams predicted that a blurry Google Maps image would lead to his arrest. But have you ever seen an image that seemed normal but yet suspicious? So in this case, there was a Cuban man, aged 32, whose name was Jorge Luis Perez, living in Soria, Spain. He went missing in November 2023 after sending a message to his family that he would be leaving Soria, where he had been living with a girl he had met. He also added that he would no longer be using that phone. However, one of his cousins was highly suspicious of this and reported his disappearance to the police. His friends and family were desperate for answers, but there were no clear leads. It felt like he had simply disappeared into thin air. Fast forwarding a year to November 2024, something strange surfaced. A Google Street View car had driven through the neighborhood not long after Jorge went missing, and in one of the images, you could see a man standing at the back of his car putting something into the trunk. At first glance, it looked completely normal, like everyday life caught on camera, but when people started looking closer, small details felt off. The first image that drew everyone's attention was a car parked along the quiet street, its trunk wide opened, and inside what looked disturbingly like a human body. But the more you stared, the more unsettling it became, and just when that was already disturbing enough, another image appeared. Here, you can see a man carrying something in a wheelbarrow. This was the culprit walking towards his car with Jorge's body in it, and this was also captured by the same car that drove through that area on that day. Even though these images prove nothing yet, these images gave the investigators crucial information they needed to solve the mystery. The investigators were able to narrow down the suspect by tracing the vehicle back to its owner, 48-year-old Manuel Isla Gallardo from Tajuelo, who worked at a town hall in the neighboring area. Although the investigators investigators knew he was the suspect, but due to not having proper evidence and no prior crime records, they could not arrest him. So they waited, and after tapping his phone and trailing him for a couple of weeks, they found the last missing piece to this mystery. It was revealed that Manuel was in a relationship with Jorge's partner, and alongside her, they kidnapped Jorge and unalive him. Due to this love triangle, police were able to locate the body buried in the cemetery of the neighboring village of Andaluz. The town was receiving its first Street View update since 2009 that same day, and because these new images simply included a single unsettling detail, they were finally able to solve Jorge's mystery. This is Paulette Landreau, an 83-year-old woman who went missing for more than 2 years from her own neighborhood, and the only thing that solved her mystery was Google Street View. Paulette was living in Andenne, Belgium. She had Alzheimer's and lived with her husband, Marcel, who was her full-time caretaker. On November 2nd, 2020, Marcel left Paulette in front of the TV and gave her lunch while he hung laundry outside. When he returned minutes later, she was gone. Her leaving the house like this without telling anyone was quite common actually, as she would frequently leave the house at random times of day or night without telling her husband or her children. She would also randomly knock on her neighbors' doors for no reason. During her disappearances, her husband would always find her several feet away from their house and would take her back home with him. But this time, it was different. Paulette was nowhere to be found. Within an hour, her husband called the police. A search team and rescue helicopter arrived in hopes that they would be able to find her, but they failed. With no trace and no evidence of where she went, the search could not find the 83-year-old woman. The question at the time was, how does someone just leave their home and disappear? And this question remained unanswered for 2 years, when one day, her neighbor was just going through Google Maps for some reason, and they found a view of something very strange. It was an old woman wearing a white jumper and black leggings crossing the road on that very day 2 years before, and that woman was none other than Paulette herself. You can see Marcel hanging clothes at the back while Paulette walks away from him. In the next frame, you can see her walking down the stairs, revealing where she might have gone next. The neighbors were quick to show this evidence to the police, and investigators relaunched their search, and with Google Street View, you can see what happened by looking closely at the area. The woman walked right towards a set of stairs and slipped while going down. Right next to the stairs, there was a steep hill that led down to a thick, bushy area full of branches, and that's where she passed away, hidden from view, until investigators eventually discovered her body in that same bushy area. And after 2 long years, a single Street View image solved the mystery of her disappearance. In the Dutch city of Groningen, a 14-year-old boy was riding his bike when 2 men following him suddenly jumped him. They stole his phone and about 165 euros, which is around $190. This incident happened back in 2009. The boy handed over the money, but nonetheless, the boy was sharp. He didn't waste a single second and went to the nearby police station and told them about what had happened. The police were quick and they started an investigation, but the boy wasn't reached out to for any further development in the case. Months passed by and no response. Yet, despite being only 14 years old, the boy didn't just sit back. He started looking for answers himself. This all took place in 2009, a time when Google Street View was still fairly new and not widely known, a tool that most adults barely understood back then. In fact, it turned out to be better than all the police investigation, as the boy found an image of himself and 2 guys behind him. He quickly contacted the police and told them about this new lead that he had found. The 2 men cornered the 14-year-old, threatening him and forcing him to hand over his phone and the money he had on him. Now, normally, Google blurs out faces on Street View for privacy, and if you wanted the unblurred version, you need to send a formal request by telling them why you need it, as the boy was sure these were the same guys. So the police made a special request to Google for the unblurred images by saying the photo could provide an important contribution to solving a crime. The company complied and provided them with the unblurred images, and a robbery detective immediately recognized one of the suspects from a past robbery. And here's the twist. They weren't just random guys, they were actually twin brothers and were arrested by the police. While this case showed how Google stepped in to help uncover the truth, in the next incident, Google decided decided to take a different approach and didn't comply so easily. In the summer of 2009, Rebecca and David Soanes were left frustrated when their caravan was stolen right from outside their home in England. The theft happened in broad daylight between 9:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. after Mr. Soanes had left the family home for just an hour. Despite installing a car alarm and even securing the caravan with a wheel clamp to prevent anyone from driving it away, the thief managed to take it. All that was left behind were the discarded wheel clamps. Now, a caravan is basically like an RV, usually attached to the back of a 4x4 car, and this one wasn't cheap. It had cost the family nearly 12,000 British pounds, around 16,000 US dollars. It was actually their second caravan, bought after their first one was destroyed in a car accident. The thief had done a clean job too, leaving behind no obvious traces, no leads, nothing that could immediately point police in the right direction. The family reported the theft, but as the weeks dragged on into months, the investigations only became more silent. The police investigation stalled until March 2010. Then, something unexpected happened. Their 11-year-old son, just hanging out with a couple of his friends, decided to look up his house online using Google Street View, mostly out of curiosity, like kids often do. But instead of just finding a fun snapshot of his neighborhood, he noticed something strange. The boy didn't waste a second. He ran straight to his parents and showed them what he'd found. At first, they thought he must have been mistaken after all. The caravan was sitting right outside their house like normal. But then, as they looked closer at the image, they realized what he had actually discovered. It wasn't the caravan that was surprising at all. It was the unfamiliar 4x4 parked right next to it, with a man standing nearby, possibly the thief who stole their caravan. The boy's father called the police right away. But there was a catch this time. In the previous case, when the boy spotted the photo online, authorities reached out and Google complied without hesitation, handing over the clear image and helped confirm the suspect. Naturally, you would expect the same kind of cooperation, but it didn't happen that way. This time, Google stood firm behind its blurring policy. The one detail that could have cracked the case wide open was the number plate on the 4x4 car that was hidden, and getting Google to release it wasn't nearly as simple. The boy's mother stated, "It does seem ridiculous that the information is available, but Google is not forthcoming with it, even though it could be used to solve a crime." In November 2010, the police publicly released the photo with the blurred license plate, asking for any clues. Google eventually provided the police with the unblurred images of the car's license plate, but it was too late, because by that time, the car had already been sold to somebody else. This created more hurdles for the authorities to track the guy down in the image. Although, in 2012, almost 3 years later, a report was released saying that the police had arrested a man suspected of stealing the family's caravan.